Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Compelling Conversations podcast. Today, I'm joined by an amazing friend, Rayyan. Rayyan, thanks so much for being here, man.
Assalamualaikum. Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome home, man. And where are you joining us from?
From my bedroom, Houston,
Bedroom.
Texas.
Nice, nice. Um, I wanted to begin, Rayyan, by saying that you're a man that strikes me as really sincere, and I admire that about you. I'm curious, where do you think that sincerity comes from within you?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliments. Honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with me. It's just the environment I was brought up in. It probably has a lot to do with my father. One of the most sincere men I've come across in any reading or any um like life experience encounter. The way I saw him like deal with people, it was certain that definitely like put me it definitely guides the way I do things. Like in a lot of cases, I'll give this example. A lot of cases, we meet people that sometimes they don't mean to wrong us, or they do mean to wrong us, and they end up doing something to us that we may not like. And in a lot of those cases, when I'm about to like lose my head, like, yo, this is messed up, I'm gonna do this to this person, or like, I'm not gonna talk to him anymore. I'm just cut him off. My dad goes like, like that's not the way to do things in his way. He said, you guys can do whatever you want, but this is not how I would do it. And his thinking is that, anybody that cuts you off, you try to get like closer to them, because that's like the sunnah, or the way of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So that's something I definitely saw in that. And then the other aspect of things, like obviously, like if you're a person that says that you're a Muslim and you follow the Prophet ﷺ and you believe in the last day, any of these things, whether it be actually any religion that believes in in justice and in the hereafter, then I think that should reflect your character, because you're going to be held accountable. So I appreciate you saying that you see sincerity in me. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do, but if there's anything positive in there, it's definitely because like all the people that have invested their time like in me to see things that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's like a philosophy or a religion or an idea could be a really beautiful thing. And sometimes that's not always reflected in the people that follow it. But when it is like seen in the people that follow it, it becomes like a really beautiful thing. So again, yeah, like good on you for that, man. I appreciate that. I'm curious how does a person cling on to that sincerity when the going gets rough?
And and it's always gonna get tough, right? It's always gonna get rough. But then it goes down to, why are you doing what you're doing? And whether you have the proper, whether you've placed, or whether the proper people are in your life to call you out on things when they see you being insincere. Like, for example, Omar's my friend, right? And I'm in a gathering and Omar sees me doing something weird, and Omar goes like, yo, bro, I mean, that doesn't seem like the right thing to do, or yo, that doesn't seem right, what's up with that, right? Now I could do that. I could take that as two things. I can say, yo, bro, this Omar is Omar buffoon. Don't come talk to me, bro. Leave me alone. Or I could see that as sincere advice. Be like, yeah, he's right. He's trying to remind me of something that's greater and that's better, and he's challenging me to be the better man. So, do I want Umar in my life because of that? Yes, I do. Right. And if Umar
Mm,
is the person that tells me, yo, no, no, you're completely right, bro. That's even if I did the wrong thing, I'm like, no, you're right, you're right. I need to be able to realize that that friend is not really a friend for me. That person is not making me do better. Rather, they're making me move backwards, right? And then the second thing is that, as I mentioned in the last point, that if you are a part of any philosophy, any religion that believes that there's a hereafter and that there is going to be a reckoning, right? Then that's why you do things. You don't do them because because it's easy to do them. You do them because you're afraid of that more than what's gonna happen now. No consequence on this earth. Uh, you know, there are consequences on this earth for insincerity as well, by the way. Like, it's not, there's good ones and there's bad ones, right? People who are
I'm curious
sincere
about
do
that.
have,
Elaborate on that. That's interesting.
yeah. So people who are good on this earth, right? Like they do have good things happen to them. Why? And they teach this in business school as well, like ethical principles and morals, and doing good business dealings, right? If you do that, then you attract clientele that's also good, right? It's not, and if you're gonna do something that's a bit shady, you're gonna shorten the stick by a few yards. You do those kind of things, then clients are gonna avoid you, right? That's the worldly aspect of things as well. But at the end of the day, when you lose over there, you're also gonna lose when you're standing in, front of Allah, your God, or whatever you're standing in front of, and then they ask you, okay, what did you do here? So it's like a lose-lose situation, right? So sincerity and being nice and all those sort of things, like they have a it's a double-edged sword, right? Like if you do bad here, you're gonna get bad there, here, and there. And if you do good here, maybe I don't want to say you're guaranteed good here, but you're definitely guaranteed good over there.
Mm. I like that. To me, it seems like with sincerity, there is a strong connection to this idea of responsibility. Would you agree? And if so, what is responsibility to you? And how do you, I suppose, incorporate that into your life?
So what is responsibility to me, and how is sincerity connected to it? Is that correct?
Yeah. Like I imagine sincerity is connected to responsibility because it makes you a more wholesome person, I think.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess what is the role of responsibility in your life?
To me, responsibility is just it is life. Responsibility is life. That
I like that.
if you're not fulfilling your responsibilities, then you're basically like neglecting the aspects or a major aspect of life that you're supposed to be fulfilling. And many people have rights upon you, and that's where responsibilities come, right? Your mother has a right upon you. Your father has a right upon you. So there's a responsibility that gets tied into that. And if you're not sincere in it, there's no way you're going to be able to keep up with it. If you're not sincere about serving, society or your parents or, even yourself, like people who like to go to the gym and eat healthy, if you're that's a responsibility to each person, like being healthy and taking care of yourself. And if you're not sincere in it, and if you go like, you know what, I don't really care, I'm gonna eat whatever. Um, Obviously, I'm saying this as a huge hypocrite. I should probably take better care of my health.
No,
But
you're a fit man.
if you're not sincere in it, then obviously you're not gonna spend those hours in the gym. You're not gonna spend those hours, playing the sport or something. You're not going to do if and that's the responsibility that's attached to it. That they're rights that we owe things and people in life. And if we're not sincere about serving them, then we won't be able to. We'll be able to fake it, or we'll be able to force like up till a certain point until we decide that that's not for us. Because at the end of the day, we make the decisions that we make. Nobody, not our parents, not no one forces us to make the decisions that we make. So we won't be able to keep up with it if we're not actually sincere in them.
How does a person arrive to that realization of like there are others that I am responsible for? Because the perspective I'm looking at it from is like in today's day and age, from my anecdotal experiences, it seems like it's not so easy to like come to that realization. Like, oh, like I need to be responsible. I have duties to other people. How do you think a person arrives to that point in their life?
Yeah, I think it goes on to honestly reflection, right? And just having good people in your life to make you realize what is the correct thing and what is not the correct thing. And to me, when I look at it, it's like growing up, like I'd be an idiot if I didn't see the sacrifices my parents made, right? That's something that they didn't have to do that. Like my dad did not have to move from a comfortable job in Pakistan. His 9 to 5 government used to come home, sit outside his house on the porch, drink chai with his friend, eat pape, and then go inside and go to sleep, pray at the mosque and masjid or whatever, and then just go about his day. 9 to 5, chill life, good salary, government worker, everything is good. And then he decides to come to America, and then there's like 7 people with him, and we're living in like a 1 2 room apartment. In the beginning, we're living with family of 22 people in one house, and then we moved to like a in Clear Lake. There's like this small house, small apartment, and then there's like he's part of it. He's unemployed, and he's working like odd jobs, weird jobs. He became a butcher for a while. Like he didn't have to do any of that. right? But he took the responsibility and he did that favor upon me, right? And he was sincere in it. Because if he wasn't sincere, there was no way he was gonna work through that, you know? There was no
Yeah.
way. So, and then looking back at it, should I not be grateful to that, right? Should I not be grateful for my father doing those things, right? And yeah, I could choose to walk away. I could choose to, go live out my world, live my life on my own. But to me, that serves no purpose. There's no higher purpose in that. And to me, there should be a higher purpose in everything. No one should only live for themselves. It's good to live for yourself, yes, so that you can serve others. That I would say that's probably one of like the key principles I follow. You should live for yourself so you can serve others.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that story. That's very beautiful, the way you articulated that. And secondly, what you just said, like it's like I see that in you, like it's not apparent to me that you live for yourself only. You don't strike me as a hedonistic person. You seem to be someone who's like you always seem to be someone of service. And so I'm curious, like with first of all, you talked about your parents. Why is it important to respect parents? And then after that, I'm curious, what is it that draws you to service?
Yeah. So in terms of the parents thing, I mean, our religion makes it like abundantly clear that even if your parents, are horrible people, the worst of the earth, even after that, you still have to show some amount of respect to them, and it's your responsibility at that moment to call them towards that which is good in a good way, right? And we have like prophetic examples from that, right? So we have Ibrahim alayhi salam, the Prophet Abraham. He invited his father, even though his father was not a good man, as people would put it. He wasn't a good man, but he still invited to him towards his calling in the most beautiful manner, right? Yeah, abati, like, oh my father. Like, it doesn't really sound good in English, but like imagine like a child that I think that's one of the things that most people actually fathers look toward, right? Their children, giving them the respect and love that comes from them, like, oh my father. Like you go say that to your dad, bro, he's gonna be like, yo, what's wrong with this fool? Why are you giving me so much love and respect all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
so so yeah, and then towards that, service, we're talking about service. To me, that's like the inbuilt pro. That's just something that I would say my mentors, my dad, my mom, the religion that I grew up with, the people that were around me, that kind of like instilled that in me. That it's all you do is about service, right? You got a short, maybe 80, 90 years max. After that is an eternity, right? So what you do for yourself is, this goes into the argument that like everything you do is selfish because everything you're doing is for later time, right? But if that's the selfishness, then I think that's good selfishness. If you if you're being patient and you're sacrificing the now for later for other people, then I think that's good.
James Allen, he talks about how like the thoughts that a person has are the seeds to their actions, and their actions go out and create their lives. How do you plant the seeds of your thoughts?
It goes back to intention. Uh, what do you intend for yourself, for your life, or where you want to be? And that's why intention. We hear all these, talks about intention, 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 and that's what it's about. If you intend something, let's say you don't get it the first time, you intend it a second time, third time. Let's say somebody wants to quit smoking, right? Every time they make the intention, they're gonna get closer to quitting smoking than if they were to never make the intention. So they're kind of like, as to the analogy you gave me, like it's a beautiful one, that your thoughts are seed to something that you do in the future. That's yeah, that's powerful. And it is only you who can plant that seed. Oh, other people can plant that seed. It's definitely only you who can cultivate it.
Yes, yes, I like that. But for yourself, like when it comes to intentions and planting these seeds, does fear ever play a role? Do you get scared, or do you think that the sincere intention alone is powerful enough to wipe out the fear?
Mm. So what kind of fear are we talking about?
Well, I guess to be frank here, when the pandemic kind of happened, I noticed in myself that it did change me in the sense that prior to it, I was a very ambitious person. And then when it happened, I like my ambition like diminished, like it almost disappeared. And I think what happened was in the absence of ambition, some level of fear kind of like sank in. And so when we were coming out of this, quarantine era, um, I felt like I had to build a new relationship with ambition. And like thankfully, alhamdulillah, I feel like I have gotten back on track with that. But that fear was there because of because I was stripped of something. So I guess something along those lines. Have you ever felt fear like that? And does that play a role in planting the seeds in your mind?
The only fear I would say I have ever um in my life it's from disappointing a few people in my life and disappointing my creator. That's the only fear I've ever held. And I think those are the only these like that fear is the only fear that's relevant to me because it pushes me and it forces me um to take that leap, to do things that I may not want to do things that I know will benefit society, right?
Mm,
So for me that aspect of fear, it's very important. If there was no fear in anything, there would be no courage in anything either.
I like that.
If there was no fear, right, that I don't have to do something, then everybody could just do it, right? Everybody could, put themselves out there, whether it be through a podcast or their work or whatever it is, or their opinions. There'd be nothing majestic or magnificent, of value to it because everybody could do it. So to me, those are the only relevant fears in my life. That's I don't want to disappoint my creators, along with a few people in my life. You know, ties back to responsibility that I don't, even though they don't expect it from me, I feel it to be something that I should carry. So
Do you take leaps of faith?
leaps of faith. Yeah, all the time. You never know what's gonna work out, what's not gonna work out. You just gotta do it.
Yeah. Are you an optimistic person? I mean, you strike me as one, but I'm curious to hear it from you.
Yeah, I would say in terms of like if you count optimism as someone who doesn't care about the negative aspects of anything, then yeah, I really don't care about failure or punishment or this that I that's, it has like it doesn't affect me or play a role in anything I do in any way. Now, when it comes to optimism, I hope everything works out. But if it doesn't work out, I'm still gonna be happy, right?
Oh,
If I live a life entirety of just trying to serve other people and it builds to nothing, on this earth, it builds to nothing, then I'm okay with that. Because I wasn't looking for the output here anyways. So hopefully I stay on that track or a better track and don't detrack along my life somewhere within that thought process. But yeah,
yeah, and I hope all of us, inshallah, because there's just so much complexity to human being. Sometimes you end up places you never imagined you'd end up. But that's really brilliant the way you put that. I remember Naman Ali Khan saying one time, "What's the point of your faith if you're not an optimist? If you're not going to be optimistic about God." So that one really hit me hard one time. Um, I know you're a man of the Quran, which is really admirable. When the Quran is absent in a person's life, what does it do to them, do you think?
I can talk from my own experience. I mean, I try to be a person of the Quran, right? Allah knows if I really am and if I'm making that sincere effort. But I can tell you, like, even now, it's not like I'm like always attached to the Quran, right? Sometimes it happens that there's ups and downs, as in everything, like in any relationship, and that's what it is actually. The Quran is not just a book; it's a relationship with a person, and sometimes we're neglectful on both sides. Sometimes we don't pick up the phone and call, and well, there's no other way in this, right? We have to make the effort on that. So I can tell you personally, like I get very, very agitated when I'm away from the Quran. Like I can tell that there's something wrong in my life, and I get very, very like anxious and agitated and I don't get anxious or agitated for anything, right? And it's only when like I feel like like this inner rumbling, like I'm a pretty sound person on the inside. Like I don't there's not many things that shake me, right? Whether that be passing away of people, that usually doesn't really because that's part of the process, right? But when I'm not when I'm not attached to the Quran or when I'm away from it in any manner, then there's like internally I feel very unsettled. And I don't like anything that unsettles me. So it's like a tether. I'm like, okay, get connected again.
Is there a particular verse in the Quran that really speaks to you?
Yeah, there's many, but I would say one of them that, I really, really try to live by and something that's, I hope that I carry on. And if there's any verse to any Muslim or Islamic worker or any Muslim that's looking for purpose in their life, it's to me this is the worst. This is the verse. Sorry, so Pakistan in me.
You're good.
Which is Bismillah ar-Rahman قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. That say قل إن صلاتي, verily my prayers, ونسكي, my sacrifices, ومحياي, my life, ومماتي, my death, لله رب العالمين, it is for the Rabb, for, I guess Rabb is very hard to translate in English, but Rabbil Alameen, the Lord or the provider or the sustainer of the entire, all the worlds, not just one, whatever's out there. It's for him. And then it goes back to, man, you're a great host. I'm not gonna lie, everything is connected here.
Thank you, man.
Which is sacrifice. That those are the sacrifices you make to serve others, right? So why do you serve him? You serve him for this purpose, right? For the Lord of all the worlds. Allahi Rabbil Alamin. Your intentions that you make are service towards that. The service that you do is a sacrifice towards that. Anything you do in life is for that. And if you end up, dying for it, if you work yourself to death, then know that it was for that. So yeah, I would say that's something that, like, if someone can ingrain in their life, for me personally, that's the way to go about it. And when things don't fall your way, that's why you do it. Then you remind yourself why you did it. It was a sacrifice that you made or I made towards the creator, right? Not towards anybody else.
Yeah, Deen over Dunya, eh?
Yeah. No,
I
Deen and
find
Dunya. It has to
Deen
be Deen
and
and
Dunya.
Dunya. Yeah.
Interesting. Explain that a little. Deen and Dunya.
Yeah, for sure. So this is something that I'm quite like into now. This topic that comes Deen and Dunya. So a lot of people say Dunya, right? Follow the dunya, get yourself your amazing job, this and that, to forget the deen, it'll come later. You're 50, 60, 70 year olds. When you get old, that's when you go to the mosque, you sit down and you pray. And then there's the other side, completely opposite, leave the dunya, like completely leave it, and focus only on akhirah, and go become an alim, which is good. Become an alim, or go to this and forget all this other thing. And that's actually, in my opinion, that's not what the Prophet ﷺ did, right? And it's not just my opinion. I say it as my opinion. I'm nobody to have an opinion. But the people I follow, the mentors I listen to, like that is not, you know, the outlook and the dua we always make, right? رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Allah give us the best in this world and in the hereafter, right? So what is the point of this? As Muslims, one of the primary causes of your life is to establish justice in a society, to make sure that Islam serves a cause of justice, right? We can see that in the Prophet ﷺ's life when he was basically uprooted an entire social class, social system, and empowered those who did not have power and who were being oppressed, right? In America, it's very, very prevalent, right? There are certain communities that are very much oppressed and that are very much put down on, right? As a Muslim, if all you do is go to your salahs, read your Quran, attend your family nights, and do whatever religious things, and you're not helping the cause against those who are oppressed, then you're not a full Muslim to me. I'm not saying you're not a Muslim as in that way. I'm not saying you're not the best of Muslims, right? That's not what the Prophet ﷺ did. He served those in his society and he established justice, right? At the same time, people who can do that are people who hold influence in this world. You can't just do that from one perspective. The Prophet ﷺ had a lot of influence, like in his society, as a
Yes.
businessman, as a person of trust, as a person of honor. His Sahaba had a lot of influence, like Abu Bakr, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Uthman ibn Affan. These were very wealthy people, and they guided the trends in society in the way that they saw best in terms of Islam, right? So they used their influence that they garner from this world, not for themselves, the money they made, not for themselves, but actually to serve Islam and to establish justice in society. The Islam we practice, if that's the Islam that's sitting in masjid and praying and just giving da'wah to people, calling them to Islam, and then taking them to masjid and teaching them to read the Quran and Salah, if that's if we're assuming that to be Islam in its entirety, we're 100% wrong.
Yeah, it might be shallow faith, you know?
I mean, how many times do we read this, right? أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Did you see, you know, that the person who's very good in his faith, right? فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمَ. He doesn't, he doesn't feed the poor, or the yatim or the orphan, you know, and goes on to that. I mean, we've read this like hundreds of times, but are we taking part in that, right? Are we taking part in not just the feeding part, but like the justice in society, right? So
Yeah.
to me, you should find causes, and this is to me as well. This is why I do the work I do, with whether it's with Young Muslims, YM, or any organization, Hiknamas, whatever. There should be that purpose should be served, because it's very easy to practice that Islam that we do in the masjid. Nobody's gonna stop us from doing that, right? In America, nobody's gonna stop us. But as soon as we stand up against these injustices in society, there'll be a lot of people that come for us. And that is, quote unquote jihad, striving for the sake of Allah, not the jihad that maybe mainstream. And alhamdulillah, like, that thing is being changed, that the perspective on that is being changed slowly. So that is the tough part of it. If we wanted the easy way out, go ahead, take the easy way out, but there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not the higher cause. That's not the higher purpose. There's a higher responsibility involved.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. It's very, very well articulated. And we're living in a social media age, and what ends up happening is there's usually a lot of like loud minorities. As in like there's like an opinion, and it's like not a whole lot of people believe it, but they're quiet about it. But then you find like a small group of people that really do believe it, and that vociferous minority goes out. And what's interesting about this is voices and opinions are the very things that shape our culture. So there's some people that'll be like, yo, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to do anything because perhaps it's out of modesty, perhaps it's out of humility. But what you end up running into is if you don't say something, then someone else will. And that might not be the path that you'd like to see your culture or your people or your society go towards. So it's very important that you mention that. And yeah, and also I feel like sometimes when people say that they don't want to say anything, or rather, when you do stand up to say things, when you do go out there and give your opinion, you're swallowing your ego, man. You have to strip yourself of some pride to be up there. So I think it's a very beautiful relationship, how it's like that selflessness, that sincerity, it's like imbibed, it's entwined with like this thing of going out there and being real with your opinions and ideas. It's really cool that you mentioned all of this. Yeah.
That's a great perspective, yeah. You put it much nicely than me, but
I didn't, but thank you for sharing that again. It was really cool you mentioned that. I didn't expect that to happen, but that's cool. It's really a reflective conversation there. I'm curious, is there like is there a prophetic story, I suppose, of any of the prophets that you look at and you're like, wow, that's something that I think about a lot in my life.
yeah, so there's one story in particular, and this ties into the Deen and Dunya thing we were talking about. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, Solomon was a king, right? And he was the son of David, Dawood alayhi salam. And he made the dua. قال رب أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قال رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي إنك أنت الوهاب. That he said, "Oh my Lord, forgive me." قال رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي, and give me a kingdom, a mulk, right? ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي. That's to which there is nothing like it before, and to which there's nothing like it after. إنك أنت الوهاب. You're the best of givers. Paraphrasing here. I could be wrong in that. You can fact check me later and let me know, guys. So if you if you think about the dua, right? Other than the part قال رب اغفر لي, right? Oh Lord, forgive me. That entire dua is dunya based.
Yeah.
A man is asking about a really, really big house or big land that like which has nothing before and nothing after will ever come. So to me, it went into the deen and dunya thing. Why would a prophet ask this, right? And this was, I think it was, I got this also from the Mali Khan, so it's not me, guys. I'm not some guru. So he said like Sulaiman alayhi salam was a son of a king. Solomon was a son of a king, and he was an amazing king, and he knew his strength. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he asked God to give him something which he could rule over that would last for a really, really long time and be a sort of good credit for him forever, for as long as his kingdom survived, right? But he knew that he was he was a great king. Like he knew that he had that potential and that ability in him. And he made that dua, even though it seems very worldly, it's actually one of the greatest things a person could ask for in terms of their hereafter, right? Taking care of them, building good credit, good deeds and whatnot, right? So to me, it kind of sets an example for all Muslims, right? That strive for the best in this world, establish Islam in the best way in every manner, right? In every field, whether that be accounting or research or becoming a doctor or this or that. Do the best in that, and then use that for your own credit and for the betterment of others around you, and to further the cause in the name of Islam, right? So that's just one story that when you said, it was immediately the first thing that popped to my mind.
I like that story. I honestly I have never really thought about that.
Oh,
So thanks for
speaking of
bringing that up.
his kingdom obviously
Yeah.
he controlled the winds. He could talk to the animals. He controls other beings like species other than humans, right? Like so it's like truly never before, never after. He's a modern day Avenger.
Yeah. A modern day Avenger is the way to put it, isn't it? Um, Honestly, it's been an amazing conversation, Ryan. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your perspective. A lot of things to ponder on. I'm curious, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything that you felt like you wanted to say, you didn't get a chance to, or something on your mind that you wanted to express?
No, nothing like that. The only thing I would say is, may Allah help us find the higher purpose in life and to serve Him for that cause. Because when we do that, that reflects our actions. As we were going back to sincerity and responsibility, when that's our sincere intention, then that's gonna reflect our action. At that point, we're gonna think twice before getting to a relationship we shouldn't be in, or looking at things that we shouldn't look at. And then it spurs us towards things that we should be doing, speaking up for someone, trying to invite people to the best of way of living, those kinds of things. So I would say, make that intention for whoever it may be, even if it's one person, even if it's myself, then it's a benefit. That make that the point of your life to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the highest degree that you can, and to be united with the Prophet sallallahu in Jannatul Firdaus as one of his neighbors, which is a tough thing to do considering the company he has, but you gotta have that hope, right? That Allah chooses you, and why can't Allah choose you along with the rest of the people, right? Allah can do whatever. So just make that effort. Try your best. Stick to your salats. Try to show up at the masjid for Fajr and Isha, at least. And yeah, that'd be my thing. That's a wrap on me.
Real quick, does that how does that affect your life showing up for Fajr and Isha to the mosque?
Yeah, you start your day with going to your creator, making that effort, and you end your day going to your creator, making that effort. Whatever happens in the middle, uh, it's the first impression and how you went. That's what counts,
Wow.
right? Obviously, you try working in the middle, you try working out all the kinks in the middle, but definitely, the first impression is important, and the last, obviously the last impact, that last, I forget the phrase, but basically, yeah,
Yeah, it seems like it tethers you, huh? Keeps you
mm,
grounded in a way.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. To close real quick, I know you have a very beautiful voice. It's something that I admire. And I'm curious, or I would hope, could you please recite a verse for us that's something to think about, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll recite Surah Asr, and this is actually like the surah that, like, honestly, if it's so beautiful, right? Wallah says, so illa ladina, the last part I will recite is basically means except for those who believe, do righteous deeds, call towards patience and truth, to which what we were talking about earlier with deen and establishing justice. So, anyways, um, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العظيم.
Wow, thanks. That was brilliant. And once more, could you please share the meaning of that?
Sure. So wal asr by time. Allah swears by time. This obviously Allah, God is not in a construct of time, but He swears it to us because we know it's something that's very valuable, important. Once you lose it, can't have it. Wal asr, right? By time. Innal insan lafi khusr. All of humanity, every single person is lost, is at loss, right? Like in terms of like profit deficit, completely lost in every regard. No matter what you think of, you're at a loss. It doesn't matter. You're the best person on earth and you have the most money, whatever. You're at loss. Illa alladhina amanu, except those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is contingent. This is not just illa alladhina amanu and then like each of the categories. No. Illa alladhina amanu, those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who have that iman, that faith, wa amil salihat, they follow it up, they back it up with righteous actions and deeds. Lalladhina amanu wa amil salihat. You can't have one without the other. You can't have iman and not do the righteous action, and you can't have righteous actions that are completely selfless unless you have that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? لَلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and you call towards, haqq, meaning haqq is like the best way of truth, right? Whether that be justice, whether that be, standing against oppression, whether that be whatever haqq is, whatever the correct and right is, you stand for that and you call towards that. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and patience, because it's a very, very tough task, right? And as you were saying, you might not see the results in this world, but know that the creator of this world has something stored for you for every effort, every sacrifice. Like, inna salati, that sacrifice you make, my life and my death, everything. That the Lord of this world, the creator of this entire universe, the one that decides, who goes where, what happens to what, in his account, there is something for you if you choose to live by these virtues, if you choose to live for him in within that, right? Not just yourself. And yeah, I would say that's another Quranic gem that I've internalized, and I'm going to internalize as much as possible and be that, try to use that as my guide in everything I do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I have to say again, I don't say any of this to like hype you up. I mean it sincerely. Like I see that in you. And so I really admire that. So good on you, man. It's amazing.
There's much to work
Um,
on. Just keep me in your verse.
yeah, likewise. Uh, but yeah, Ryan, this was an awesome conversation, man. I genuinely enjoyed it. You really dropped a lot of gems. Thank you, honestly. And I suppose until next time then, huh?
Until next time.
You take care, my friend.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.